Now, of course, availability is impacted by your very standard fault codes and downtime. So if something breaks within the machine, if there is a jam caused by your parts or raw materials, it is going to be unavailable for production. So once again, you get a metric based on percentages for your availability for a specific time period. The last one we're going to look at is quality. So quality is going to be very centric to most manufacturing practices, but it's not always counted the same way as you would imagine. So for example, if you have a machine that will detect an issue with a specific object, you could have a vision system that counts that this is in fact a reject. Therefore, it's a lot easier to, for example, send that data into a system that's going to capture that count versus, for example, if you have a batch that goes through an entire cooking, ingredients, then maybe fermenting process, and then at the end there's a manual quality check that rejects the entire batch for a specific step. At that point, it becomes a little bit more difficult to track. So if you have the ability to capture the data at the machine level, where you have a specific, in most machines, you'll see a reject chute, you should have a counter that will tell you how many parts have been rejected on a basis. And again, remember that everything in terms of OEE and more specifically MES usually is going to be time based. So here, when I'm talking about parts per minute, the reality is an OEE reading for a minute is not going to be extremely valuable. You want to be able to make decisions over periods of time, usually, let's say, hours, shifts, days. So ultimately, your quality is going to be how many rejects have you had versus the total number of products produced, which will give you, again, a number. If you have 0 rejects, then your quality was 100%. If you have 2 rejects out of 100, that's going to leave you with 98%, so on and so forth. So you're going to be multiplying all 3 of those metrics to get the OEE for your specific machine. The very common question or discussion point that you will get into based on what I've just explained is the fact that those 3 metrics can differ depending on the type of machine you're talking about. In some machines, you have 0 rejects, so quality is always at 100%. In some machines, you have a design for validating the quality of the product that's going through. It's essentially a conveyor belt with multiple vision systems. A vision system with just a conveyor is very unlikely to go down or be unavailable or have a low performance, but it is something that will reject parts all day, every day.